welcome back to my channel, TorAthena, where today I am reviewing Logan. This is the spoiler-filled video. I have two videos up today. There's a spoiler-free and a spoiler-filled. If you have not seen this film, please do not watch this video. Click on the link that I don't know where it will be or the description below and it will take you to the spoiler-free one. I promise you, it's not the best review because I'm really struggling to pick my words without spoiling anything, but I definitely don't spoil anything. So if you haven't seen this film, stop watching this video now. I am about to start spoiling everything in a minute. Okay, so you've decided to carry on watching this video, which means you must have seen the movie. So do not get annoyed at me if I spoil anything. I am basically just going to go through the notes and the thoughts that I had whilst I was writing them down while I was watching this movie. So it is not going to be the best review, but it's definitely my thoughts and opinions towards this movie. Well, basically, to start off, I loved this movie. I thought it was the best comic book movie I've seen, and that's a very bold statement to make, considering one, it's Fox, and two, Marvel have done so many good movies that is kind of a scary thing to say, especially on the internet where people are not scared of giving their opinions out. But I really did love this movie. I'm starting to think that Fox have genuinely fired whoever was writing whatever films they were writing, and have got the great cast that are starting to make films like Deadpool and Logan. I thought I was going to be so protective over this film. When you look at Civil War and how I reacted to Civil War, I was furious. Civil War was the reason I got into comic books. Really excited to see they were making a film, watched the trailer, and it was trying to be like the comic book, but it wasn't enough, and I got so angry and so protective and I hated it. I did enjoy the film more than I thought I would, but I still hated it. This film was completely different. This trailer was completely different to the graphic novel. The film, the only thing that they have in common is that it's set in the future and Wolverine's in it, yet I still loved it. What I think they did was, I think they changed it so much that I couldn't compare. I'm still going to compare in this video just for sake of people who've watched graphic novel and watched the film. But yeah, it's not the graphic novel, and I was okay with that. I was more than okay with that. In fact, I loved it. I think I preferred that they did that. And in the first scene, you know straight away, because one of the first things that happens within like a minute is he gets his claws out. We all know that in the graphic novel, one of the key issues in the story was that he never got his claws out, and you didn't know why. This is set in the year 2029, which I also think is an incredibly clever thing to do. Yes, this is Wolverine's last film. Yes, he died at the end of the film. That doesn't necessarily mean Wolverine isn't coming back. Now, I know we all know that it is its last film, he's not coming back, but there's still room for improvement there. If they want to bring him back, if Hugh Jackman wants to come back for whatever reason, they still have 12 years from present to 2029 to play with. I liked the fact they would just randomly mention stuff like, oh, tigers are extinct, or auto trucks are really a nuisance. And I thought that was clever, because one thing that people make the mistake of doing when they set stuff in the future is they make everything different. People are flying, we're eating space pills, but really in 10, 20 years, not a lot changes. Styles are tweaked, things are evolved, things are slightly different, but still not that much. So the fact that the world was still incredibly similar, just a little bit different, was very clever, and very rightly so. Patrick Stewart's first scene is possibly the hardest scene I think I've ever watched in a comic film, and the amount I cried is up there with some of my saddest films, like Champ or The Elephant Man or Hunchback of Notre Dame. There's a lot of things that hit you in this film, and one, if you ever have a family member who has suffered from any sort of dementia, which I have, that is a very triggering thing. That's something you can relate to on a very personal level. You can understand how hard it must be for Wolverine to watch such a father-like figure become so frail and old and ill. And on the other side, I went to the cinema when I was 11 on the first day of high school. The first day of high school, my dad said, okay, you're grown up now, you can go past the front garden, you can go further, you can go and do things. So on the first day of high school, I got on a bus and I went all the way to the closest cinema by my house, and I watched X-Men all by myself with my friends. My first day of being allowed responsibility, X-Men was the first movie I saw, and I have grown up to that point with all these comic book films following it. Good and bad, I have grown up with these films. Good and bad, I have grown up with these actors. And to watch these actors become frail and mortal and vulnerable, it was up there with the first time you notice your parents are mortal, your parents are aging, which I can remember that too. And it's something that just cuts into you. And maybe I'm too sensitive and maybe it doesn't affect anybody else in this way, but it did affect me in this way. I loved that Logan was sick, just as much as watching Patrick Stewart become vulnerable. You're watching Hugh Jackman play this vulnerable man, and everyone loves Wolverine because he's not vulnerable in that way. He's physically immune to aging. Well, maybe not so much aging, but he doesn't age as fast as us. He is a fast healer. He is not vulnerable in the way that we are. He is the stronger man, and all of a sudden he's not. It's so weird and awkward and almost uncomfortable to watch, but in a very good way, in a way that only good writing can pull off. I really liked the little girl, although I just couldn't get past the similarities of Stranger Things meets Last of Us. So you have this little girl who is genetically modified or brought up with special powers where some government-like figure is after her and she doesn't talk. It just screams 11. All she needed to do was eat some Eggos and it would be... But there is also a saying that there's only 7 genres in this world and every story just follows them 7 storylines. So if you read as much as me and you watch as much as me and you play a lot of games like me, you're going to see a lot of storylines overlap. And as long as they can have them similarities and still pull off their own unique message, then it's fine. The other thing that I found really hard about this movie is that you were watching the transition of the comic characters that you've grown up to love and the comic actors that you've grown to love and recognize as them characters. They're dying and they die, and it's transitioning from the old to the new. It's no longer Wolverine, it's X-23, and it's like, it's so hard. I love how in my little notes it just says, I don't know if you can see it, I was not emotionally prepared. And I wasn't at all. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. The scene where Xavier's in bed and he's like, it's the best sleep I've ever had. And he's confessing to Logan and he thinks Logan killed him, and then he finds him and Logan takes him downstairs and he puts him in the truck and he thinks it's the boat. I'm fine. Let's stop talking about that. I was crying my eyes out in the cinema, like literally going, I couldn't breathe. I was so sad. I have a thing about elderly men being vulnerable in movies anyway, because I think I see my dad and I'm scared of ever seeing my dad that way. But then it was someone I loved anyway, and they're dying and they're dead. It's so hard. Even Stephen Merchant's performance was unbelievably harrowing. Like, he's usually this comic relief, and he even kind of starts off as this little bit of comic relief, and then he plays this victim so well, and he's this strong and brave character who is tortured and imprisoned and used like a slave, and then he kills himself to protect his family and his friends and to end his own suffering. And it's hard, it's dark, it's deep, it's very painful to watch, and it's done so well. And you know Wolverine is gonna care for the girl, and I expected him to care for her in the way that you would in a normal film, where just overnight he'd love her and protect her, and that never happens. Even to the end he's like, oh, I'm a solitary person, I've got to keep to myself, you do this and I'll do this. And he goes to get her when he realizes she's in trouble, but he wasn't gonna follow her for his own flawed reasons, but he wasn't going to. And you know, he'd always cared about her, he'd always protected her. And then at the end, as he dies, he goes, so this is what it feels like. And you know it's what Patrick Stewart was referring to when he's like, this is a home, this is what it feels like to have a nice night and be with family, you know? you should try it sometime. And he's talking about love. This is what it feels like. I thought it was incredibly, almost like meta. X-24 was a younger Logan and he had to fight himself, and you know, it was a little bit obvious, but I also really liked it. I liked that he was the clone. I liked that it was him but younger. I liked that it showed what the rage did to people, how poisonous it can be, and he just needs to let go. I just thought the film was so good. It was a good film, and if a film can make me sit there for half of the movie crying my eyes out and then just talking about it and start crying again, it's got to be good. I just loved it. I just loved it, and I could go on and on about the little things that I liked and I didn't like, but those are the big parts for me that I wanted to discuss. And my biggest flaw in the film was probably the fact that they missed out on such a great opportunity. The biggest reveal in the graphic novels is that why Wolverine won't get his claws out. And I'm not going to say why, just in case you haven't read the graphic novel, but that is the biggest reveal. And I thought Xavier was touching on it when he was like, I've done a really bad thing. And I was like, okay, if you read the graphic novel, it's not Xavier in the comic who did it, but I kind of like that they touched on that. I kind of like that's how it explains why there's no mutants left or whatever. And then the Doctor just goes, oh, I killed them all. He's the reason there's none left. And I was like, I don't like that as much. I mean, it shows that he's as much of a villain, and he has explained, no, I didn't mean to kill them, I was trying to improve them. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I think they should have, I don't know what Xavier was on about now. I don't know what he's talking about. I think they should have left it with it being ambiguous and for you to decide what that meant. And that's what I took from it, was that the comic book connection of why there's no mutants left. But overall, I thought it was a very powerful film, and I thought it was a very good film, and I'm really glad that I watched it. And I genuinely think that everyone should watch it. And I'm not a big fan of action. I find it very boring, but even in this film, I found it very entertaining. So please, if you've seen this film, comment below, because the one reason I've done this review is because nobody I know has watched it, and I need to talk to people. I need to talk to people about it. And so yeah, please comment below. Like the video. I'm trying to cheer up now. And please like the video if you liked the movie or this video, and because it really helps me out. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.